While the zombie phenomenon has died down to barely a twitch of the death nerve, there always manages to be a few zombie horrors that end up surprising me by the time I'm cobbling together this countdown. The Sadness's over-the-top mayhem, carnage, and depravity may be stomach-churning at times, but it truly was a horrifying movie. Not for the squeamish, let's check out the best zombie film of the year, The Sadness. This is M.L. Miller Frights Best in Horror Countdown 2021 through 2022. Counting down the best in horror films released from October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. According to me, M.L. Miller. Here we go. Number 5. The Sadness was released on May 12th, 2022. It's streaming on Shudder and directed and written by Rob Jabaz. The day started normally for Kat, played by Regina Lee, and Jim, played by Barant Zhu, as they go through their morning routine. Reports on the news talk about a quickly spreading virus, but like all the other virus alerts these days, they pay no mind to it. But after Jim drops off Kat to the train station, little does either of them know this would be the last normal day of their lives. The virus is highly contagious, turning its victims into twisted and perverse versions of themselves, with no morals to block out every desire and paring them down to base animals with the sole desire to eat, fuck, and kill, sometimes not in that order. As the virus spreads all over Taiwan, Jim fights desperately to get to Kat, who is miles away and running for her life as well from these slobbering, weeping, and laughing monsters. If you're a reader of comics, you're going to see a lot of familiar things while watching The Sadness. At its core, it's just another virus-addled fast zombie movie. But comic book readers who have experienced Garth Ennis's Crossed series are going to see a lot of similarities between the infected in The Sadness and those in that indie comic book. There's so much similarity that it feels as if someone in Taiwan read Crossed and just decided to lift the idea. Just as with Crossed, The Sadness is not your typical zombie story. It tears the most basic wants and needs from the back of our reptile brains and presents it to all proudly in full, bloody, and gory color. I know a lot of people are marveling at the bold step into the abyss this film takes, but for this reviewer, who read most of the Crossed series, it really doesn't seem so revolutionary. That aside, I did love The Sadness. It sets up a very simple premise. Two lovers, separated by a great distance and many undead obstacles, fight to be back in each other's arms. It's because of this simple premise that the film is so endearing. Actors Lee and Zhu are likable, though Kat is somewhat naive and snooty, and Jim is presented as pretty dim-witted at times. They still make for a great couple to root for. This premise allows a lot of things to be thrown in between Jim and Kat, and those things are quite effective and intent on keeping them apart. I was rooting for these two to make it through this horrifying experience and was compelled when that reunification was put through so many ringers. The acts these snotting, slobbering, crying infecteds do to the uninfected is definitely going to make those with a more delicate disposition wince and want to run into the next room. This is one heinous little movie where these zombies seem to still possess all of the characteristics of their former selves, just not the moral fiber to resist the urge to hump or tear apart anything and everyone around them. Seeing the bizarre mix of facial expressions on the faces of these infected people is one of the most unsettling parts of The Sadness. With broad smiles on their faces and eyes leaking tears, these monsters are relentless and some of the most terrifying zombies put to screen. The effects are nauseatingly realistic. There's so much gore and spatter in this film. Every fluid and organ that is supposed to be inside of us is covered and smeared around these sets to the point where you can't tell what you're looking at anymore. Just some undulating bloody mess. The Sadness is a uber gore fan's winning lottery ticket. There are some fun twists along the way, and The Sadness has one of the most powerful endings I've seen since Train to Busan, another horrifying zombie movie from overseas. It feels like a comment on how thin the line between man and animal really is in a society packed together so tightly and a social climate boiled to scalding levels. The Sadness also seems to want to comment on how none of us take these types of sicknesses seriously until it's right up in your face and ready to decimate you. There's also a lot to be said about the repression of basic emotions in polite and so-called advanced society, and the encounter Kat has with a creeper on the train definitely feels like present-day social themes are being touched upon as well. You can debate the theme work of this film, as it does feel deep enough to do so. But if you're looking for the next level of zombie films, The Sadness is it. Though it was done first in Crossed, The Sadness presents the horrors in a grueling and shocking manner. There are some fun nods to Romero throughout the film, but it stands on its own as a harrowing gauntlet that will leave you exhausted by its final nihilistic moments. It's doubtful there will be a better zombie movie than this for a while. The Sadness presents a unique enough situation and type of horror that will definitely serve as the antidote for that funk you may have had from the over-inundation of zombie films in recent years. While it didn't make the countdown, the sequel to the surprise Aussie hit Wormwood, Road of the Dead, did a whole lot right. I don't think Apocalypse achieved as much as the original did, but there's a hyperkineticism to the film that makes it wonderfully fun to watch. Wormwood Apocalypse was released on April 14th, 2022. It's streaming on Tubi. It's directed by Kia Roche-Turner and written by Kia Roche-Turner and Tristan Roche-Turner. Picking up pretty much right where the last film left off, Wormwood Apocalypse follows a ragtag group of survivors made of tough guy Barry, played by Jay Gallagher, his undead girlfriend Brooke, played by Bianca Bradley, who has the power to control other zombies, and sisters Maxie and Grace, played by Shantae Barnes-Cohen and Tazia Zalar, respectively, as they battle the undead and themselves. Seems Brooke has to be satiated with blood or she'll go full mindless zombie, and after attacking Grace, the group splits up, seemingly for good. Meanwhile, Rice, played by Luke Mackenzie, is making a living in his barricaded mobile home, trapping zombies and survivors and delivering them to the underground bunker run by the Surgeon General, played by Nicholas Bouchier, who runs his heinous tests on his subjects and makes a drug that prohibits others from becoming zombies. When Rice runs into Grace, Rice develops a conscience and decides to fight back against his employers, run by the sadistic madman mercenary known only as the Colonel, played by Jake Ryan. This results in a whole lot of bullets, bloodshed, and carnage. Sorry, I couldn't find another B word. Bare-knuckle brawling. There. That's better. Wormwood Apocalypse naturally continues the turbo-powered twisted fun that began with Road of the Dead. It maintains the same feverish tempo and tone, and continues to fill every scene with machismo, gore, and gory machismo. While paying homage to action tropes, none of the action feels repeated or stale. Hell, they even have the same actor playing the twin brother of the villain from the last film, and it didn't bother me one bit. There's just too much to like and be entertained with to find anything wrong with this film. Believe me, I tried. Much like early Zack Snyder films, the Roche-Turners rely heavily on precise and dynamic scenes. They love their slow-mo shots of cool characters walking into battle. They love their perfectly staged hijinks and action sequences. The comedy is as crisp and biting as the horror. This is a writing-directing team that deserves to be set loose on a Hollywood production. Though I think this filmmaking team is too prickly and unconventional for most Hollywood types. The best part of this film is that it never forgets to inject humanity into its characters. While the bad guys are as dastardly as they come and flawed to the core, the good guys, as gruff and troubled as they are, never feel like cliches. Luke Mackenzie is great as the hero who has committed tons of sins in his past, but has big plans to redeem himself or die trying. Even without uttering anything other than guttural screams, Bianca Bradley communicates her love for her man Barry, played by Jay Gallagher, simply with eyes and action. If there's a fault to this film, it's that the focus of the film strays too far away from the sisterly bond between Shantae Barnes-Cohen and Tazia Zalar, but that bond is picked up later in the film, though it's next to forgotten in the first half. All of these performances are sewn into this story and never have a chance to slow down or stop panting. Finally, Jake Ryan and Nicholas Bouchier do a marvelous job making the bad guys distinct and utterly unredeemable. This is definitely a film where you want to see the bad guys suffer as much as they can. And suffer they do. The gore doesn't hold back. In fact, it might even be more intense than the first film. If you like your zombies gnarly and gross, and your human-made carnage even grosser, this one's for you. Expect all kinds of blown-up zombies, dismemberments, guts galore, and weird science monstrosities. It's all here. It's all in your face. It's all a smorgasbord for the gore hounds to feast upon. I'm as bored as you are with zombie films these days, but Wormwood Apocalypse is the remedy for that. It mixes the end-of-the-world desperation style of the Road Warrior series with a new and deadlier kind of zombie. It's wicked funny at times, but rarely cartoonish in a Peter Jackson Dead Alive way. The laughs come from how hardcore this film goes with every scene. While this is a sequel, don't worry if you haven't seen the original Road of the Dead. It catches you up right and quick. Still, seeing both only doubles the fun and makes the experience even richer and rawer. If you're looking for a 1-2 punch that'll surely knock horror fans on their asses, seek out Wormwood's both Road of the Dead and the new Apocalypse, and you'll be down for the count. As always, feel free to agree, disagree, or give me your own picks for your favorite horror movies. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown 2021 through 2022. Be sure to hit all of the pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks.